including how to access the meeting via WebEx or telephone. Again, instructions have been posted at sau53.org under the remote school board meetings heading. Also, we're providing a mechanism for the public to alert the public body during the meeting if there are any problems with access. If anybody has a problem accessing the meeting, please email Sandy, that's Svaline, SVALINE, at sau53.org. And finally, in the event the public is unable to access the meeting will be adjourned and rescheduled. Please note that all votes that are taken during this meeting shall be done by roll call vote. Let's start with roll call attendance. When each member states their presence, please also state whether anyone is in the room with you during this meeting, which is required under the right to know law. We do have a couple of absences, unfortunately, tonight. So I'll start with Amy.
Present and alone.
Jean.
Present and alone.
And I don't think we have Ann or April, but I'll call Ann. And April. And I'm Andy, and I'm present and alone. So we'll do a quick reorganization of the board. The first order of business is to select a chair. So I think we're going to take, I'm hoping to take some of these and maybe postpone them until next time if possible. But we can't have a meeting without a chair. So we get a chair first before we go any further.
Andy, are we looking for a motion?
Sure. Or a nomination, I suppose.
Motion, or I'd like to nominate Andy as chair.
Right.
I'll second that.
I will accept that. Had so much fun this past year. Why not try again?
Should we have some debate over this?
Is there discussion?
My debate is the more fun for Andy, the better.
Okay. So I guess all in favor, well, roll call vote. Amy?
Yes.
Jean?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. I'm going to pay attention. If you guys could all help me just pay attention to the A section of the participants. And if anybody sees Ann or April jump in, please let me know. I'll try to do the same, but I don't want to keep calling on them every time if they're not here.
And
yes.
could we just quickly mention, I did start the recording halfway through your introduction, but just to mention that we are recording the meeting at this point.
Thank you. So we will move on to vice chair.
I'd like to nominate Amy Manzelli for vice chair.
Okay, I will second that, if that's okay with Amy. Okay, I'm not much discussion. So on a roll call vote, Jean?
Yes.
Amy?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Thank you. Patty, I don't have the list in front of me. Can you tell me the stuff that we have to get done tonight?
Sure. I'll read them all and we can see if we agree on whether we need to act tonight. I think most of this can just stay status quo. People can still fill the role until we make a change. I think MBC is all set. Maintenance and facilities, if something comes up, Amy can just address it. Exec board just met. CIP should be set for now. PA scholarship should be set for another month. The manifest review, that's April and Amy. So we just need to make sure everybody's okay just leaving April on the manifest review until we have another meeting.
I actually spoke with April and she said she was comfortable remaining on that. So
Okay.
I'm not sure if you guys are comfortable, making that formal, without her here.
All of a sudden, Andy, just FYI, you have like a weird feedback thing that happened there, but
Yeah.
I actually would be more comfortable on this if we just made a motion in the nature of like a continuing resolution. It would sound something like, I move to continue all of the committee chairs from 2021 until the next meeting or something like that, just so it's official.
I'm good with that. If you see anything on that list, Patty, that we really do have to take care of tonight, let me know and we can do an all but. Okay.
Okay, so hearing nothing from Patty, then I'll that's the motion I just made.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, is there discussion? Great, I think that's the right thing to do, and everybody's here to talk about it, hopefully. So on a roll call vote to postpone, I'm not sure, do you want to say that how you said it, Amy? It was so much more eloquent than mine.
Continue the committee chair, continue the committee representation that we had for the 2021 school year until the next board meeting.
Thank you. On a roll call vote, Amy,
Yes.
Jean,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. Thank you. Just write this down. Okay. So we will do agenda review for item number 2. I do want to move some things around here because we do have 2 absences, and Ms. Manzelli has a possible commitment. So we do want to take care of anything that needs to be voted on first. Let's see, I wrote this down, and of course I don't have it with me. So I think we want to, we can take public comment. I think that's important. And then we can get right into instructional model and the other items in number 7, if that's okay with everybody. And then we do have something for consent agenda that I don't think is 100% urgent, but we'll get to that if we can. So I think really we're just going to say, let's wait on minutes for now. And gifts and donations. Is that cool with you, Patty?
Sure.
Is that good with Jean and Amy?
Yes, I also have
Yes.
a comment on the agenda when you're ready for that.
You go right ahead.
Okay, I was going to ask for an additional agenda item to be added tonight. In lieu of us only having 3 board members present, I'd like to request that for the next agenda, we put an agenda item goal setting. And what I envision for that is that each of the board members would be given an opportunity to state some of the goals that they wish for the board to achieve this coming year. And then either at that meeting or maybe at the subsequent meeting after some reflection, we could, fine tune our official list of goals for this year.
Yep, absolutely. I wrote it down. We'll get that on there. It's something we usually do every year about this time. It just last year obviously fell off for obvious reasons. I will ask Patty to have Kathy drop our 2019, I think it was called, goals in the drive so that we can look those over and see if we think we need to continue any of those. I know Jean wants to take a look at that climate culture survey. So yeah, I think we got a lot to do there. Thank you for that. So with that, we will move on to our first public comment section. Where I'm gonna keep this tight to 15 minutes, so we will be done at 6:55, if not sooner. If you're new to this, go ahead and use the raise hand button if you're joined with your computer. If you're called into the meeting via telephone, please just hold tight. And when I don't see any more hands on the computers, I will give instructions on answering the phone lines. There's a 3-minute time limit, and please be as brief as you can so that we can get as many people as possible. Let me get a stopwatch going here. Okay. I see one hand right now. It's Steve and/or Tammy Boucher. Go right ahead.
Hi, this is actually Cove Boucher. I'm a senior at Pembroke Academy. I want to first say that I recognize that COVID itself is not the school board's fault, but I believe the school board has mismanaged its handling of it. Last year, I missed prom in my baseball season. This year, I have not had the opportunity to see my senior class this entire year, and depending on the board's decision about getting back, may never be in school again altogether with my fellow seniors. I am a good student while I have continued to maintain good grades. I have certainly not received a strong education this year, being at best hybrid and at worst remote. I am not unique. All of my friends say the same thing. We are not motivated nor excited about school. In fact, even when in school, when I look around, it makes me sad as everyone looks so downtrodden. Seniors who are failing have been allowed back to school, and today I learned that students taking AP classes are allowed back to school for those classes. How does one think that makes the rest of us feel? Let me tell you, the message it sends to my friends and myself is that our education is less important and we don't matter. My senior year has been ruined to date, and I am asking today that you make the right decision and immediately get us back into school. I don't want my last year at Pembroke Academy to be one that leaves me with nothing but a bad taste. We belong in school and need to be in school. Please make the right decision and get us back where we belong. Thank you.
Thanks, Cove. Appreciate the input. The next one I see is Deanna. Go ahead.
Hi, this is Deanna's husband, Mark, 36 Donna Drive. I want to say now that Allenstown and many other schools are going back 5 full days, Manchester is going back, going to be open 4 days for their elementary school. Will the school board be willing to vote to allow children 5 full days, or will they continue to leave children behind? Especially the seniors. You need to get seniors back in. Numbers are dropping. The schools should have been open the whole time. This has gone on too far. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. Next, we have Melanie Camello.
Hi, Melanie Camello for South Browning Court. I just had a couple quick comments. Vaccines are here, they're happening. We're right on the cusp. They're finally opening for staff and for teachers. And I would just encourage tonight, when you think about the instructional model, about all the students, neurotypical, compromised students, we're almost there. Some of us, the best we can hope for to get into the classroom is that those that are willing to get vaccinated, and we're just about there. And then my other suggestion was, I hope you guys do discuss, maybe not so much on the high school level, but developmentally on the elementary and the middle school level, a well thought out transition plan. We're down paras, we're down assistant personnel, and it's going to be a huge change for the staff and that age students. Thank you.
Thanks, Melanie. Looks like next we have Carrie Dean. Go ahead.
Hi, Andy. Thank you. I just wanted to say I realize that outside of the school buildings, we can't really manage what teachers and staff are doing. But I was a little bit upset on Sunday when I was grocery shopping and saw a teacher and her husband not wearing a mask in the school building. In the grocery store. I realize that they're required to wear them in the school buildings. But I would really appreciate it if we all continue to do our part. I hate the masks myself personally, but I hate my children not being able to go to school 5 days a week. So everybody, please keep doing your part. Thank you.
Thanks, Carrie. And I see one more hand. It's Brian Gleaton. Brian, before you start, I just want to say anybody else that might want to contribute, go ahead and get that hand up, because otherwise, after Brian, I'm going to switch over to the phone lines. So, Brian, go right ahead.
Thanks, Andy. Brian Gleaton from Pembroke Street. I'm assuming tonight there is most likely going to be a vote to return back to school based off of what I've heard from my daughter and her teacher telling them that they'll be returning to school. If that is the case, I'm hoping it's more than just theater to try to appease the masses. I'm also extremely disappointed in the vaccination effort, or lack thereof, that I'm seeing from the administration. When other districts have already finished fully vaccinating their teachers, ours don't have a date set up yet. And I believe it's another case of the administration and potentially board dropping the ball on planning. The last school board vote shows that 50% basically of the voting public is unhappy with the status quo and looking for change. Please be more proactive moving forward. Thank you.
Thanks, Brian. I don't see any other hands. If you are called into the meeting on your phone, you can hit *6, and that should unmute you, and then just go ahead and state your name and I'll recognize you. All right, I don't see any, and I don't see any more hands. So we will move on. So we'll skip to agenda item number 7, immediate business, and letter A is the instructional model. So I will turn it over to Ms. Sherman.
Thank you. So in your drive, I did put an updated matrix, and if you had a chance to look at it, you could see how much better the numbers are. Really, really good progress pretty much in the entire state in every county. Merrimack County is down to 139.6 per 100,000 people. The town of Pembroke currently has 9 active cases. in our schools, PA 11, Three Rivers 1, and Hill School 2. So because we discussed at the last meeting that this matrix was done at the very beginning, and it was using Harvard Health Department, CDC, all talking about cases per 100,000. And it's not really representative of New Hampshire. I was struggling to find something new. The CDC guidelines came out, Department of Public Health updated at the end of January. So I decided I wanted to kind of compare, since our counties are smaller than other places in the country. I think it's a better representation to use our own Division of Health grid. So I just went ahead and put that in the drive for you, and I hope you don't mind, I just scratched some notes on it just so that you could have a visual to follow along with me. So as I said, on January 26th, the Division of Public Health Services in New Hampshire, Bureau of Infectious Disease Control, did another one of their updates. And they talked about considerations for schools transitioning between models. So if you look at the bottom of page 1, the criteria discusses level of community transmission. So the first criteria is the positivity rate on a 7-day average. So I looked at both Pembroke and the counties, because when we talk about community, we want to look at not only the county data, but our own data in Pembroke. So in Pembroke, it is a 4.5%, and that's a 7-day average PCR test positive rate. And in the county, it's 3.3. So that puts us in the minimal zone for community transmission in that area. If you go to the next criteria, it looks at the number of new infections per 100,000 population over 14 days. So Pembroke is so small that that's an NA on that. They don't measure infections per 100,000 when we're at such a small number and a small population in our town, relatively speaking. The data for the county, though, Merrimack, is 241.5. So while our community is minimal, the cases per 100,000 is in the substantial range. And if you go to the next page, that's where it helps to determine which learning model you should be in using this criteria. So the other section is the level at the top is the level of school impact. So for the criteria, when you're talking about transmission in our school facility, we've seen very little of that. So we would fall in the low zone in terms of school impact, which is either 0 or sporadic cases with no evidence of transmission in the school setting. And then we go to student absenteeism due to illness. So, we have students absent on a regular basis with unrelated to COVID. So I put us kind of in the low medium. It's either less than 15% or 15 to 30%. And then the staff capacity to conduct classes and school operations, which could have been normal, strained, or critical. And I would say we're still on the strained, which is the medium risk. It's definitely still difficult to find substitutes. I'm hoping that changes when folks can get vaccinated and they'll be willing to come into our schools and sub again. So if you look at where that puts us in terms of our learning model, if you look down to the next grid, you have across the top level of community transmission and down the side level of school impact. So if we look at the PA or Pembroke minimal category, medium risk would be in person. And then even if you looked at the substantial county rate, if we're low impact in our schools, we would still be considered in person. So falling kind of between low and medium in a couple of areas doesn't mean that just because we have significant county spread that would shift us into a different learning model. So we're definitely more in the in-person learning range than we have been thus far. So that's why we took a look at that. At the last meeting, you probably remember, I did tell you that we were about to recommend students coming back to the Hill School for more in-person learning, and then the CDC guidelines came out that Friday afternoon. So we had to spend the weekend, we kind of put a halt on that, had to spend the weekend going through that extensive document, looking at the guidelines. I listened to the webinar, and we chose to go forward with our planning. We did it in a very collaborative manner. So Wendy and Tammy led this very well in the Hill School. They included the staff at all points. When we got to the place where we were ready to make a recommendation to the board, we reached out to the Education Association leadership. They had some questions, met with Amy, and everything at this point, I think, to where we got for today is looking really good. If you remember in our plan, we talked about the 3 feet, 6 feet, and no social distancing. And there are some hurdles that needed to be overcome. I think a couple of factors, the next round of grant funding, as well as warmer weather, is really helping us to move that plan forward. So with the grant funding, you may have noticed we did get a couple of pods on site to start putting some of the tables. In the classrooms that we have tables, the students are right next to each other. We can't maintain 3 feet of social distancing. So we are going to get some desks with the new round of grant funds that we've been promised will be deposited this week. So Wendy's gone ahead and ordered some furniture so that we can maintain at least 3 to 6, but at least 3 feet in our classrooms. Josh has been working on getting us some tents so that we can have some overflow lunch areas and some tables and some chairs. So the grant funds are definitely helping us out as we move forward with our planning. It's kind of a spoiler alert. I did put my notes in the drive. If you had a chance to look, I just thought it would help us kind of gather our thoughts and see what the next steps would be. So something really, really important, and we've talked about this many times, is transportation. We're going to have to put out a survey, and we're going to have to really rely on any families that can transport their students to and from school if we're going to make this happen. So we did the same thing in Deerfield, and we got enough of a response that we were able to get all the students back in K-5, and we have really long lines in the morning, but communities are pulling together, and I've heard that from other communities as well. So we will be asking for help from the community with transportation for sure. We don't have enough buses and we don't have enough drivers. So I guess just to cut to the chase, what we're going to be recommending is that K2 return for Tuesday through Friday on March 30th. And then grades 3 and 4, we are waiting on furniture. So we were able to relocate and find and move around enough furniture that we can outfit the K2 classrooms and maintain that at least 3 to 6 feet of social distancing. So as soon as we get the new furniture, we'll be able to pull 3, 4 in. And once we pull 3, 4 in, then we should be able to be in for 5 days a week, pending we have a little bit of coverage that we need to do in the morning. But I think we'll be able to pull that together, and we have some stipend funds from the grant that we can use for that. At Three Rivers School, we're looking to return on May 3rd, again, pending transportation. Pembroke Academy has been, as you know, gradually increasing students for both cohorts to lead up to after vacation on May 4th to have a full return to Pembroke Academy. So again, still working out a lot of details, have tents on the way, tables, chairs. The overflow for lunchrooms will be key because that's a place that it's really difficult. We are using our cafeteria space to the max with half the students right now in order to social distance. So we're really going to be relying on that extra furniture and the tents and some other items that we have on the way. So some of it is a little bit up in the air until we know for sure what we have and what we have for transportation. So that's a really quick outline, and our principals are here and can answer any specific questions that you have about the planning and where they're at in their individual buildings.
Thank you. I've got a couple, but I'll let you guys go first. Amy, Jean, do you have questions?
Thanks, Andy. I have a couple questions. Sorry, just need to let the dog out. I apologize. So one of my questions is, I'm biased in favor of always having like a written plan. And I know that this is a fast-moving train, and I'm not interested in stopping this train. I think that I'm in favor of this plan as proposed. But I just wanted to ask about, like, is there a plan to write up the plan? You know, it would be great to sort of have good documentation about this, which we could then update as we go along. That's just my first question. I think I'm going to have a few more.
Sure. So we've had the full return plan has been in draft format all along because we know this is ever changing, and a lot of these plans were already in the 3 foot, 6 foot, and no social distancing columns. So as we go along, we can certainly update that data and put revision dates on that plan. The bulk of the work is done, and I think most everything is in there already. So I think it'll be a quick update on our part, and we're happy to do that.
And what about Melanie Camelo's comments about, you know, neurotypical versus neurochallenged and everybody in between, and just sort of the rollout and making sure that people are appropriately supported? I know you touched on that a tiny bit, but can you just provide some elaboration on that?
So I think our support staff has been mobilized and has identified those students that are struggling, and hopefully have touched base with all of them. We've had some students actually coming into the building. We know that some students will have a harder time transitioning back than others, and those students are being identified and will receive any intervention that they need. You know, and like I said, whether it's a gradual return where we can have them coming in just a little bit here and there before the full return date, there's lots of options, and our staff is ready to help any student that needs it with transition.
Do you think that it would be sensible or unnecessary to set up 1 or 2 like fireside chats is the term that comes to mind, but, you know, an open hour? I think Mr. Marston has done this over the course of this academic year for, like, you know, a change is coming, any and all questions, this is your time to ask them, you know, something like that.
Sure, we can talk about arranging something like that. That's a good idea.
Other questions?
I did have another question, which is, you know, like, let's say worst case scenario, right? And this plan fails, and, you know, there's transmission of COVID amongst the students and teachers, and it's, you know, very, very bad. What mechanisms are in place to sort of like keep track of that and identify that, you know, at an early stage?
I think the plans that we have in place now will continue to work when we're full in, because the minute we're informed that someone is positive, whether it be a staff member or a student, contact tracing starts immediately. Our nurses will continue to do that. I would suspect if there's a case in the school, it might mean more people are quarantined. I certainly would not pivot to a different learning model unless we felt that there was an emergent need to do so, and would you know, update the board every 2 weeks like we have been now. But we would, I think the plans that we have now and the work that our nurses and administrators are doing would still continue and work in the full model too.
And I'm sorry if I missed this part, but what about the school choice option? You know, I'm just saying hypothetically, you know, I don't want my kids to go to the school 4 days a week. I previously haven't been remote. Am I going to have an option to go remote? You know, parents who find themselves in that situation, what are their options?
We closed the date to go remote, so our classes are definitely full. We're capped out, so we would not be able to accommodate requests for remote learning. We could, however, help parents. I know that there's VLAX has had some classes open recently. There's more seats. We could help with that. We could help, you know, if they wanted to start homeschooling, we can certainly facilitate that process with them. You know, the guidance counselors will be ready to discuss options with parents, but reopening the choice to go remote is not something we're going to be able to accommodate.
I just have one final follow-up, and then I think I'm done. can we hear from the principals and also from you, Patty, based on survey data and anecdote? Do we anticipate that there's going to be a significant amount of concern over that? Like, is there a large population of parents out there that is going to, you know, have concern about not being able to opt into remote at this time, given that in-school attendance seems like we're going to approve that?
I would defer to principals because I've not heard that concern directly, so we can ask if they've heard anything at the building level, if that's okay.
I can start. We did field some of those concerns, but I think our context was far different than it is right now. Community transmission rates have certainly improved. Vaccination rollout has gone more smoothly as of late. So I think our context continues to change, and I can only imagine that the concern has also changed. So, I mean, one of the challenges we have is, we have approximately 100 remote students right now, and adding on to that would be very difficult for us to do, while also facilitating having students come back in 4 days a week. So we would certainly try to emphasize that we would still have an expectation for social distancing and for face covering, and the warmer weather and some of the resources that we're going to be able to put in play will allow us to do those things with fidelity while we have more students in the building.
I'd echo everything that Dan said. I do think, well, I don't think, I know I've had more phone calls about how can I get my child back into the hybrid setting. And quite honestly, it's not easy for some kids. And so we are, as Patty has said, we are trying everything we can to, whether you come in for a half hour and hang out with us and then go home, and the next day you come in for an hour, whatever it is, we just try to customize it. But I've had more requests to come in than I have to stay remote. Now, I really don't frankly have a handle on it. If we go all in 5 days a week, starting on the 3rd, if that's going to, change or not. But we're not done getting information. I think that's one thing Patty referred to, is we still have a lot of work to do to make this happen. And some of that is to collect some of that information so we can, I want to make it so when we come back, we're in and we're there. We're not going to, but that's going to take some planning to do that. So I have not heard of people wanting to go remote on a large scale at all.
I'm gonna echo what they said. I think it's similar sentiments. I've had more people asking how we get in, 4 days a week. We've been slowly bringing students in, especially kiddos that we wanted to provide additional support for. I think, Amy, that goes to your question about making sure that we're really targeting those kiddos who need that. It's a slower roll, so I'm not really concerned in that case. And then if we had any concerns, we could help work everybody through it, but it's more they want them in than moving to remote. I think everybody really listened when we said that last call for remote was the last time I got, questions about that.
I apologize, everybody. I have another obligation this evening that has just begun. I anticipate I will be able to resume attending the meeting in 10 to 30 minutes. If the other board members are ready to make a motion now, I can stick on for about 30 to 60 more seconds. Otherwise, I will have to resume.
I'm going to have some questions.
Okay.
Yeah, and I have some questions also.
I will be back shortly. Thank you.
So Patty, is there a way to pause the meeting? I don't know the best way to handle this. We can't do anything because we have less than a quorum now. So.
Yeah, you just lost your quorum, so no decisions can be made. I guess it's just up to you on whether or not you want to go forward on the agenda with things that maybe don't need to take action. Learning model was
So can we certainly can't make any decisions. Amy got her set of questions. Hold on, I'm going to mute you. For some reason, if you and I are both unmuted, it sounds terrible. I think Amy got through her questions. Would it be appropriate for Jean and I to run through our questions and continue this conversation without any decisions?
You're certainly welcome to do that, sure.
Jean, are you comfortable with that?
Yeah, yeah, I'm fine with that.
Okay. I don't want to go out of bounds, but again, I think a lot of people have been waiting a long time for this discussion, and we need to, get somewhere on it. So, Jean, do you have questions?
Yeah. First of all, I'll have to say I was hoping for a little bit sooner. I like the way Hill School's going, but I was hoping for a little bit sooner at TRS and PA. And I'd like to get a little information how those dates were chosen, and go from there.
Is it okay if we let John and Dan answer those?
Yep.
I can go. There are a few reasons. One is we are working, or I say we, but it's really Patty, has been working with the state on a vaccination date for our staff. We should have confirmation on that date tonight. And based on that, and the fact that, we have been garnering a lot of interest from our staff over the weekend with these dates. And so in considering that, we're going to have a large percentage of our staff getting the vaccination and then potentially getting a second vaccination. And, there may be issues. I know that some people don't feel well after the second shot. So there are some concerns about that. And starting in May would avoid that. In addition, one of the things that's really important for us is, and I've talked about this before, is lunches, right? And maintaining social distancing during lunch. After April break, the weather is more predictable, and it is, I think, more conducive to asking teenagers to sit outside for lunch for 25 minutes. We do have plans for inclement weather, but those plans are really a stopgap at best. It's not something that we would want to do on a long-term basis. So that's another consideration. And then there are some systems that we have to put in place, and we have to test our capacity with those systems. One of them, believe it or not, is parking, because up until this point, we have allowed whomever can drive to come onto campus and do that, and just kind of get rid of those obstacles for students to get here. But we are going to have to institute parking policies and parking passes because we're going to have more people here. So we have to get that system in place. And we want to continue to build our capacity and do that in an incremental way rather than kind of a shock to the system all at once. And so, doing it this way allows for that to happen. And we continue to identify either students that, could most benefit from the support, or students that their classes are not going to impact the capacity of other classes quite as much. So that's been our rationale.
Yeah, Three Rivers, a lot of the same things, although we don't have students that park. But we will have quite a number of things that we have to get figured out. One of which is a big one up for us is lunch. Our capacity, if you've been in our cafeteria, our cafeteria is relatively small. And in order for us to hopefully be successful with that, Josh has ordered some tents that we'll be able to put out in the playground and one in the backyard. And that will give us the ability to expand during those times, and also use those as outdoor classrooms for teachers that would like. Those aren't coming tomorrow. We still have to go through the building and identify, which Josh and I did today a little bit. We walked through the building trying to identify what classrooms need to be altered, and in other words, not altered, but taken out of, things taken out of it, what rooms work, what rooms don't. I have some class sizes that are relatively large that I cannot fit into one class, I don't believe. So I'm going to have to figure out a way to live stream within the school to make those classes happen, depending on how many kids end up coming. The other piece is transportation. We're going to have a problem with transportation and traffic patterns. There's no question about it. If we have a number of people that are able to drive their kiddos to school, we're going to probably have to come up with a whole new traffic pattern at Three Rivers in order to do that. Currently, on one of our days, I think our A day, we do have a line that's already down to the end of the road, and that's only half of our kids yet. So we're going to have to work on those pieces. I'm also going to have to readjust majority of the student schedules, just the way it's laid out now, so that we can, without getting into the bloody details of all the scheduling, there is some scheduling work that needs to take place. The other part is the transition for students. We really want to try to find a way to transition those students, and you'll be seeing, assuming this is approved, you'll be seeing there's a little more transition on our independent days with a little more contact with teachers going forward so that we can slowly get kids back into a 5-day rotation. We have started on Mondays, but we're going to enhance those independent days. The one thing that I have found is students are used to the schedule they're in right now. And it's going to be a little bit of a shock to the system to go 5 days a week all day long. So I think we need to be thoughtful of that as we go forward. And everything else that Dan said about vaccines and all those type of things. Hopefully that helped, Gene.
Yep, thank you. The other question I have is the sustainability of the remote model for those students that can't be in the schools. And do you anticipate students that are currently remote coming back when the schools do open? Or a number of them, not all of them, obviously.
You want me to take that one because I'm first up?
Yes, go ahead.
So we plan on having our full remote model to the end of the year. That won't change. Our teachers and staffing are committed to that. We will be able to offer remote students that want to come into the building once we get that furniture, because we have unearthed every piece of furniture we possibly can to get the kiddos in. We were able to go K2 instead of just K1. So once we have more of that, then in some of the grade levels, not all, we would be able to have remote students return to the building, because obviously our goal is to get the kids, in person in front of us if parents do wish to take advantage of that option once it's available.
Yeah, Three Rivers, the remote option is quite different than the other two schools. So right now we have it functioning relatively well. I'm actually feeling pretty good about it. Now, if enough kids start coming out of that remote class and coming in, which actually we would love to see them, that will create another scheduling issue, because class sizes could potentially start getting way too imbalanced, if that's a word. So we're going to have to thread that needle as we go forward, and that's going to take time to figure out who's coming back, who isn't. The hard thing is if they decide to come out of remote, they don't go back. I'll give you an example. I have one grade level that has about 30 kids that are remote. That's a large class. So if they all come back, we can't have 30 in a classroom. So now we have to disperse them into other classes to try to balance and keep those class sizes as low as we can so that we can maintain social distancing. So that will be very dependent on who comes back and when. So we're going to have to do a surveys of sorts to find all this information out so that we are able to have that balance within the classroom.
We would maintain our full remote status for those students that are currently full remote. If they came back in, we would certainly want that. That would be ideal. But the plan is to maintain that model till the end of the year. As such, that would also mean that we would have to retain flex days on those Mondays, because that's the time that teachers meet with those full remote students. It's also the time that they develop a lot of the assessments that are different than the assessments that students would take when they're in person, depending on the content area. And that's also part of the MOA between the Education Association of Pembroke and the board, for Pembroke Academy, that gets retained for the year.
Thanks. And one question that it's just a question, so has any consideration been given to foregoing spring break to get the kids back into school maybe a week earlier? More time in the school, full time, just again, something I was thinking about as you were talking to, so.
We've not had that conversation as a leadership team, so no.
I'm thinking if you're going to be doing surveys, that might be a question that could put on there to see what the response is as far as that goes. More time in classes to everyone that's involved, and not just the students, but administration and teachers.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, that we'd have to then take time off at the end, I think, because the teacher's contract says they'll work a certain number of days. So if we add 5, we'd have to subtract 5 somewhere else, probably.
Yeah, I apologize. I wasn't even thinking of that.
No, that's okay. I'm just thinking out loud too. I've got a few. Gene hit some of mine. So I just wanted to double check that I can't put my fingers on the calendar right now, but that the 3rd, 4th, that's right after April break, right? The last week of April is break.
Yes, so we talked about PA returning on the 4th because Monday's a flex day, so that Tuesday after break would be the 4th.
Right. And when is the last day of school?
I don't have the calendar in front of me. I'm not sure if one of the principals do.
I can't find it in the drive.
So Wednesday, July 16th. Or June 16th.
Okay. Scared me.
Come on, Dan. Whoa.
Yeah.
Hang on.
Okay. So we're talking a month and a half. Okay. This one's already been answered. So outdoor spaces, you mentioned tents for lunch. Is there, especially at PA, I guess, is there the possibility of using those tents for other things, or even without the tents on nice days? Are there plans or discussions around, having some classes outside on a field or whatever?
Yeah, so as I was talking about lunches, the way that we would be able to almost double our capacity for lunches is by using exterior spaces. We have that courtyard in between the academic wing and the main office area, and we're ordering 30 collapsible tables for that area, and that will give us 60 students that we can have for lunches there. We also want to use the senior courtyard for seniors, and we can probably accommodate 20 to 25 students there. If we have to add a few more tables, we can do that. And then we have been able to accommodate, I'd say, 15 or 20 students in our main lobby, and we would continue to do that. Now, we have also looked, with the assistance of Josh Berube, we've looked at increasing our Wi-Fi capabilities in both the senior courtyard, the main office courtyard, as well as in the track, in the event field that is surrounded by the track. And we have certainly talked about the fact that during the warmer weather, it allows for teachers to access outside. We encourage that in the fall. We would continue to encourage that. I don't think it's something that we could hard schedule for classes or for teachers, simply because of the weather, but also because lessons may not always be conducive to that kind of environment. It depends on what they're doing. But we would be very supportive of them accessing that as much as possible. Now, different than the other schools, we are not setting up a tent prior to the first week of June. We are setting up, Josh Coughlin has reserved a 60-foot by 130-foot tent that we are going to put up to help us facilitate some graduation activities that I wanted to talk about during the principal's report. But I can share with you that we would set that up, and that would allow our seniors to be under that tent for like convocation and awards night, and then we could live stream that. We would also use that tent for the spring concert and live stream that for our top 10 dinner, and the junior class is working on a prom that they would have under that tent on our campus on Saturday, June 5th. So every night that that tent is on our campus, it is going to be used.
Awesome. Let's see. Outdoor space. So yeah, I mean, I guess I would encourage everybody at all the schools to make as much use of outdoor spaces as you can. I'm certainly encouraged by the numbers and the vaccines and everything like that, but obviously outside you can social distance, and everybody likes to be outside anyway. Just curious, we mentioned that 3-4 would be able to go back when furniture arrives, but I don't think that I heard an expectation of when that might be. Do we have a rough time frame?
I don't have an exact time frame right now. We just placed the order. I anticipate it coming in the next couple weeks. And then I think from there, we could, the turnaround time on it, I believe it has to be put together, and then shuffled out into classrooms. I already apologized to Josh and the facilities for lots of legs that are going to go on lots of desks. But I can definitely provide an update as soon as we have that.
Okay. This is probably a question for Mr. Coughlin. We're getting all this stuff, and it sounds like we're getting all this stuff mostly from grant funds, which is great. I wonder, I think we've heard in past years that there's some storage issues, and we've even discussed like some people not being able to store football equipment in one of the buildings because we needed to actually use it ourselves. Are we going to be able to keep this stuff in case we need to reuse it? Are we throwing away things and this is replacing it? Like what's going to happen to all this stuff when things are back to normal?
So on my end right now, we're going to store everything. It would be month to month. And if we see 3 months, 4 months down the road, whether we need to keep it, whether we need to put it back into the classrooms, or whether the reality of it is some of the stuff is going to be old and obsolete that's coming out that probably won't make it back into the building. So I would take it month to month realistically to see what does come out. And then we go about how we maintain that or do not maintain that furniture moving forward. The reality of it is whether we want them or not, we might be looking at some pods, which are the storage units for a period of time longer than we might anticipate.
Gotcha. Thank you. And the last question, well, I've got two. One's really more of a statement. I think Mr. Morris started or said this, and maybe I didn't pay close enough attention. What is the status as far as our teachers and staff and vaccinations? And that's not necessarily directed at Dan, but Patty or anybody.
Sure. So it's been very frustrating around the state because we are divided into regions, capital public health regions. We're capital area, and we hadn't heard, and this poor woman, I don't know how many emails I sent and voicemails I left, and the nurses hopped on too. We offered to be a fixed site. We offered to host the entire SAU in Pembroke, hoping that if we had big enough numbers that we would be chosen as a site. We were hearing from some superintendents that they were contacted very early on and invited to be a host site. So it was frustrating because we were getting messages that other districts were already having clinics and we hadn't even received a phone call. We did find out that our region was in charge of the 12,000 vaccinations that were given at the Speedway. So that was why we hadn't heard anything, which I can certainly understand. We already had rough numbers ready. So we were at the ready the second we got a call. We were told to stop calling public health, that they were going to reach out to schools when it was their turn. And then on Friday, late afternoon, early evening, I got the email from public health, and I immediately set up a spreadsheet, sent it out to principals. They did one call now to staff saying, we've got the call. We weren't offered to be a site, but we were offered to come to a fixed site. So we were offered the 21st and the 28th. There's a site at the Steeplegate Mall, and it's not running on Sundays. So they basically gave us 2 Sundays. I spoke to some other superintendents. They received the same email in our area. So I think that was sort of the compromise, was to find a big site and try to get as many of us there. as we could. So we're supposed to get the link tonight. I've been in contact with this person as frequently as possible, and my understanding is they're going to divide us into groups, and some will be afforded the 21st and some will be afforded the 28th. Signups open tomorrow for the entire state. So we are also welcome if we got the 28th, for instance, we could still sign up tomorrow and see if we could get a sooner appointment. We're not really sure what the appointments are going to look like when people log in tomorrow morning. So we have some options. I was, like I said, surprised. They told us if we hadn't heard by yesterday that we would not be given any opportunities to either be a host site or be invited to a site. So Friday afternoon, evening was a welcome email. So that's the most information I have, or the most up-to-date information I have at this point.
No, I appreciate that. And to be perfectly honest, not to be combative or anything, but I knew a lot of that. And you and I chat and I ask you questions probably more than I should, probably bother you, but just kind of to show that we don't always know what we don't know. And just because things don't work out as quickly as they do next door doesn't mean that people are not doing their best to make these things happen. And there's a lot of factors at play. I've dealt with this vaccine. I work for the state. I volunteered 2 entire weekend days to help at the racetrack and make that happen. And the complexities behind the scenes around this vaccine process are unreal. And what I can tell you, being in contact with Patty as often as I am, is I have a ton of confidence that we pushed as hard as we could to get to the front of this line. So I just wanted to throw that out there. Last thing I had is not a question, but rather a comment. I tend to trust you guys. This is your job. I'm just an IT guy. So when these dates I'm trusting are well thought out, and I was going to ask about the TRS and PA dates, and Gene already did that. I guess I would just say, if there is a possibility, if things go better than expected, if furniture arrives sooner, whatever, if there is a possibility to get in a little sooner, I would certainly be willing to consider that if circumstances change. And I know that sounds like a bit of a change from my point of view normally, but I think we're there. With the teachers being able to get vaccines, that's huge. With the numbers dropping off as quickly as they are, that's huge. With the weather warming up and the ability to get outside, that's a major factor. And I think, in the next 4 weeks, we're going to be looking really good. So if there are things that have to wait until May 3rd and 4th, I trust that you guys have done your due diligence on that, and I will be in favor of this. But if something changes along the line, certainly let the board know, because if we can get the kids an extra week or 2, I think I would be in favor of that at this point.
Andy, can I just ask a question that just came to me?
Sure.
A lot of us have been saying teachers. Obviously, teachers are extremely important, but can you just clarify, Patty? I think what we all meant was everybody at the school. Like, everybody at the school will have an opportunity to be vaccinated on those 2 dates that you mentioned.
Yes, that is correct. Thanks for that.
All right. Any other questions?
So, Andy, I just procedurally, just in case we have any, well, let me just say, so I'm considering making a motion for TRS that would sound something like, TRS return May 3rd, pending transportation, or sooner, at the discretion of the superintendent and principal. So I kind of want to take that on its own, and then we can do 1 or 2 motions for PHS. Like, I just kind of, is that sounding like the right way to proceed?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm kind of open to anything. If everybody's comfortable with them as a group, I could do them as a group, but if you want to take them individually, we can do that as well.
I think it'll just get too complicated. So I will make a motion for K through 12 to return on Monday, March 30th.
Wait a minute. You said K through 12.
Yeah, nope. I will make a motion for K through 2. There's no 1 there. 2 to return on March 30th, Tuesday through Friday, until everyone is back to full in-person learning.
I'll second.
All right, any discussion? All right, on a roll call for K2 to return Tuesday to Friday instruction on March 30th. I'm sorry, not that's a note. No, it was March 30th, right? Yep.
Mhm.
Okay. Sorry. Got paper stuff all over my paper here. All right, on a roll call vote. Jean,
Yes.
Amy,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. Thank you.
I'll make a motion for grades 3 and 4 to return. Hold on, scratch that. I just need clarification here. This is also Tuesday through Friday until everyone is back to in-person learning, or no?
Do you want to go ahead, Wendy?
No, it would be 5 full days once we can that. The only thing we're asking is that first Monday we still have available the first time so that we can do the prep and get ready in. But then after that, it would be 5 full days.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to make a motion for grades 3 and 4 to return full-time 5 days a week once the furniture arrives and is in place, with 2 conditions. First, that parents have a minimum of 1 week notice. And second, that the very first Monday of this transition not be an in-person school day.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Any discussion? Okay, on a roll call vote. Amy,
Yes.
Jean,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. Thank you.
So I'll go for that motion I described earlier. I'll make a motion for TRS to return in person on May 3rd with 2 conditions. First, pending adequate arrangements for transportation. Second, that on the discretion of the superintendent and Principal Marston, they may start sooner than May 3rd.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
All right, any discussion? Okay, then on a roll call vote. Amy,
Yes.
Jean,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. Thank you.
I'll just keep going here. I move for PA to return in person on May 4th, Tuesday through Friday, with a gradual increase of students for both cohorts leading up to May 4th.
Second.
All right, any discussion? All right, on a roll call. Jean,
Yes.
Amy,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. Thank you. Patty, in the notes, there are a few other decisions to be made. Do you want to spell those out? Do you want to talk about those right now?
Sure. Yep, sure. Thank you. So when talking about transportation, other districts have begun increasing bus ridership. And Linda Bowden did reach out and let me know that she had spoken to the drivers and that was something Dale was willing to do, would be to increase bus ridership. So in doing our surveys, I don't want to get to the point where, gee, if we could only fit a few more kids on the bus, we could pull this off. So I'm interested in knowing how the board feels about increasing bus ridership at this point.
Do you have a number that another district is using by any chance?
All I can tell you is Deerfield went up to 35. The problem is that we don't know yet what we don't know. So if we do we do the transportation survey and we come back and say, oh my gosh, if we could have 30 on Pink Bus, then it would work. So I hate to tie our hands, but then again, I'm sure you don't want to just have it open season either with as many students on the bus as we need. So I don't have great advice for you at this point other than to find maybe a number that you're comfortable with. And then if we come very close to that and it's going to impact our ability to return, we could revisit it.
Yeah, I don't even know if I like the idea of a number, but if you guys want to go down that road, you can. I think that I'm definitely comfortable with the number coming up some, especially since the bus company and the drivers in particular that need to be in contact with the children are okay with it. I would be taking a shot in the dark to pick a number. I guess I would be, I don't know, Jean and Amy, do you guys have thoughts, feelings, numbers?
I just have a question, and I'm trying to take it all in. I'm sorry if I missed this, but what is the maximum number of students we have on buses today? And then how does that line up in terms of like, are we currently doing the 1 student per seat rotating window aisle? And what is that number?
I think that would be 26, if I'm not, principals can help me if I get this wrong. And then siblings can double up. So I think some of our buses are up to probably 32-ish. Does that sound about right, Wendy and John? So it just depends on the bus and it depends on the routes. So we're going to need to work very closely with Dale and get them this information right away. And as soon as we can get transportation survey results, get that to them right away. We may be back in the situation where we need to do like we did earlier in the school year and have buses go back and pick up other students and have sort of a staggered start and decide whether that, that may be preferable to not being able to get everybody back in is if some students are going to come to school late. Not ideal, but it may be what we need to look at. So a lot of this does depend on the ability of community members to bring their students into school.
Yeah, go ahead, Amy.
Thanks. I'm just trying to think outside of the box here, and you guys can tell me if this is a very bad idea or unworkable, but just observing, I live in the Donna Drive neighborhood and there are like little packs of children that run around together. And I wonder if, parents could elect, like, my kid can sit in the same seat as these other 12 children or something like that, and it would maybe likely coincide with little kind of residential clusters.
I think anything is possible at this point, and I think we're all open to any out of the box thinking to pull this off.
I like that idea a lot, Amy. I think that, there's neighbors whose children are playing together every day right now anyway. If we can find an efficient way to survey that or poll that and have people say, yep, my kid can sit with their siblings, but they can also sit with these other 3 families, that's going to up those numbers in a safe way. I personally, I don't know that I'm comfortable putting a number on this. I feel like it's the discretion of the administration and the bus coordination. And I would say at this point, I think, we did give the opportunity back in January for everybody to go remote who wanted to go remote. And that leads me to believe that the people that are going to school and that would be going to school 4 or 5 days a week at this point have somewhat of a comfort level. And I certainly don't want to jam in, I don't know, what do they fit anymore, like 48 or 60 people on a bus. I wouldn't want to go there, but I think that, my personal feeling is between the administration, the bus company, the bus drivers, and then the parents, that they can kind of figure this out. And if parents are super uncomfortable with it, then hopefully they can work with those in their neighborhood to arrange other transportation. I don't know. I would probably support a number if somebody had one and could give me some reasoning. I just don't feel like I can do it justice, and there are people that are in a better position than me to make this decision.
I think it's really helpful just to know that you're okay with increasing the ridership, because if you weren't, that puts us in a different spot.
Is that a consensus of the board? Gene and Amy, are you okay with pushing that number some? And I mean, I think I would say maybe if if we're getting above 45, like let us know type of thing. But I don't want it to have to wait for a decision on our end and impede getting kids back in school.
Yeah, I think one of the concerns that I do have also is the consideration of staggering start times because of ridership. So I don't want to put any numbers on it. I want to see this work and get them in on a regular day schedule like they've had in the past.
I would agree with that as far as just feeling, goes. I would lean more towards upping ridership to avoid double runs if at all possible. If it gets to critical mass and we have to do it, I think people would still prefer getting their kids back in school with double runs versus not getting them in at all. But I would say increasing bus capacity is preferable to multiple runs at this point, from my point of view.
I agree, but at some point, I agree that increasing capacity on a single run is better than doing double runs. But at a certain point, I feel differently. And so for me, it's like finding that point. And I guess, I sort of want to ask Wendy, since you're staring down now 14 days from now, can you give us a better information about like what you need for us before you can implement this plan in terms of bus ridership?
So this one is our trickiest one, and I'm not gonna lie to you, this was the one that kind of is getting us because, so just to give you a perspective right now, 26 on a bus means there's one student per seat, right? If you're adding any more than that, there's 13 on one side, 13 on the other, one person on a side. So if you're increasing it all, you're asked 3 or 4 going across a road depending upon. What we had talked about was doing siblings sitting next to each other. We would absolutely have assigned seats would be something that we would work on and provide to the bus company. And then also going for, if we have students that are in the next level for us, was looking at who's in the same classroom. And if they're in a cohort and they're already there, having them possibly sit next to each other, masked at all time. The tricky part of this is right now we're looking K4, but then when you're bringing on TRS, that's a whole separate ballgame. So it's doubling what we currently have. There's 104 students right now. If we're adding any more to that, I mean, we now have 126 that are going to need it on a daily basis. So I think it just comes down to how comfortable we are putting as many students on a bus as possible. I don't know how many parents are going to be able to transport. We've been pretty lucky at this point. When I ask parents to transport, they're really stepping up, and I greatly appreciate that. So until I have that number, I don't know what the outcome looks like. And then we would not necessarily know until TRS has their number as well. So, there isn't a set on this. We can definitely look at what that critical mass would look like just for us and then kind of get an idea. Typically TRS and us, all of our numbers wind up being about the same. So if I have about a 50% ridership, they do as well. So we can kind of at least get a little bit of a bigger picture. But I need to send that survey out and get that number in. I think like Patty said, it helps knowing that you're interested in increasing ridership. And then I'll work with John to see kind of where we're at if we were to put the whole picture together, because you're talking changing bus routes again. So they're going to change them when we go in at K2. We're trying to avoid doing it when we go adding 3, 4 in, and then it would be changing it again when TRS is added. So there's a lot to work on our end with this. I don't know if that helps you. I need more information.
Yeah, that does help. So it sounds like we're okay leaving it at this. You're going to be gathering more information. You've gotten some information from the board tonight. I wanted to stay on the bus topic, but change it a little bit. What can the school district do to support walking and bicycle riding? I mean, this fits in now with the change in weather. It's healthful, it's sustainable, and you know, it's within reach. It's got to be many children are within a half a mile or a mile of, you know, we can limit the discussion to just PHS right now, because I think that's the more urgent matter. So is there any, you know, we're using grant money for tables and desks. I mean, is there any availability to have any support staff assisting with having groups of children walk to school, crossing guards, you know, all that sort of thing, coordinating parents to volunteer?
That's not something we've looked into. I think it would take me a little bit of time to process and really think about what we could do. I can think about, you know, think about it. We do have kids that do walk, and we do have staff that's out there to, you know, help them once they get to a certain point, but I'd have to do some more research on that and get back to you.
I wonder if we could reach out maybe to PALS. I know that's not really their bailiwick, but I also know that they know everybody in town, and you know, they may be able to help with some coordination or something. Who knows?
I think that's a great idea, Andy, and I would really appreciate you guys looking into this. I think it could serve so many needs all at once.
If I could take a step back, I should have said this back when we were making all the motions on switching the learning model, but Wendy mentioned it as far as buses, and I just want to reiterate, I don't think anybody has any other thoughts, but she, you know, said masked the whole time on the buses. We still have a policy of having masks in our schools. That is, from my point of view, not wavering at all. And I really want to urge, you know, we've got a good chunk of people on the phone here again tonight. I just want to say, I know everybody's been waiting to get back into school. Literally everybody has been waiting to get back into school. Please, please, please talk to your children about the masks. They're probably used to it by now, but it's a big deal. Let's, you know, try to keep the idea that this thing is not spreading inside of school buildings in a crazy way. I guess just urge everybody to do this as responsibly as possible. So Patty, looking at the list, we had number of students per bus, we had double runs, and then kind of just the general plans, which I think we already took motions on. Is there anything else around learning model that you need action from us tonight?
I just probably more just a discussion or for informational purposes. As we're welcoming everyone back and having more students on campus, it's definitely going to increase the workload for Josh and his crew. So we're talking about already having those conversations about opening up the building. And, you know, we haven't fully opened it up to all of our clubs yet. We're starting to get requests from other outside groups to use our facilities, whether it be the fields or the gymnasium. And I think I just want to make sure that everyone knows that that is still on pause until we know the space that we need and until we have our summer programming set, because we're going to need more space this summer than we ever have before. So we just need to make sure that we have the space that we need. And then other factors that people may not be aware of is that Josh only has a day crew in the summer. He has to take his entire staff and put them on the day shift so that they're working together, because they're moving furniture, they're doing lots of things that they can't do independently. So our buildings do close earlier in the summer. There's no one, I think 2:30, is that right, Josh?
So we have smaller crews at the Hill School in Three Rivers, and we close at 2:30 at those buildings, and we staff PA a little bit longer because their summer activities drift into the early evening. That allows us a chance to clean up, secure the building, and go home.
So I think just an FYI at this point, but I know people are really eager to get back to activities and get back to summer programming. But we are going to need a little bit more time to figure out what space we need and when we need it.
Yeah, thanks for that. I actually meant to bring that up because I've had some questions directed at me via email or phone calls or whatever from various different groups, including the town of Pembroke and their rec program, which I think is, super important. But from my point of view, I want to be as accommodating to all of those folks as we possibly can, with the caveat that we are coming out of the strangest year that anybody's ever imagined. And I assume, there may be a population of children that need some extra assistance, some extra support in the summer months to go from this year back into a normal year. And I again, I want to support all of our community programs, but I think our students have to come first and our education goals have to come first. So certainly with the space that we need in our own facilities, we need to map that out first. I'd encourage, not that you're not already, but I would encourage speed on that, and as early as you can get it figured out so we can let people know if we're going to have space available, that would be great. But I think we need to keep education as the primary use of those facilities. Other comments on the facilities for stuff outside of education itself? Sorry, I should have asked you guys first. Okay. Then are we moving on, Patty? Or is there anything else you want to say on that?
No, not unless the principals had anything that I'm forgetting. I think we covered everything.
Anybody? Okay. Well, in the scratched out agenda that I did at the beginning when we were reviewing, I have... Oh, we're still under number 7. So, Patty, you've got AV, the camera stuff that we talked about last time for the meeting in May.
Yes. So as requested, Josh reached out to some more companies. He actually reached out to 5 companies. One of them, Malloy Sound, we've used for other things. They're already booked. New Hampshire AV quote came in at $11,935. The issue with them is they've been so busy doing this that they did not do a walkthrough. They weren't going to be able to do that. And then we had Productions Inc., which was $24,530, so way above and beyond the others. And then we actually had Events United came in about $378 less than our original bid that we brought forward from MFI. So we're still recommending MFI because the owner of MFI not only is a PA graduate, but they ran the graduation at Northeast Delta Dental Stadium last year. And that is a huge event. And it was done so well and broadcasted. And I heard not a complaint about the audio. And knowing that and having such good faith in the company, having seen them work with us, we felt like it was probably worth the extra few $100s to have them work with us. We did check on the outside prices, and they were pretty consistent with what we had seen before. Productions Inc., they were $24,000. It was I think $46,000 to do outside, so it was running extremely high for outside events. They were also concerned about the feedback and the wind. On the second time around, they told Josh that they were talking about a 2 to 3 week turnaround. And then on a subsequent conversation, he realized they all thought that we were going to have tents set up, and we hadn't talked about that extra cost. So not only would we incur costs that are much higher than having it indoors, we would now have to add tents, and I can't imagine what kind of a tent we would get to try to keep the whole meeting under one cover. So we are still recommending that we stay inside using multiple locations. We have the setup, the quotes are to set up 3 locations. And again, we are recommending MFI for that work.
All right, questions or a motion?
I move that we accept the bid from MFI to do the production of the May school district meeting.
This is Amy. I second, and thank you for getting the multiple quotes. Appreciate that. If April were here, I think she would, off the top of her head, know the reference to the policy that requires getting multiple bids, and also thank you.
Any other discussion around it? Okay, then on a roll call vote to accept the bid from MFI for the production of the May 1st school district meeting on a roll call vote. Amy?
Yes.
Jean?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Thank you for that. Anything else you want to say on that before I move on, Patty? Okay, 7C, live streaming board meetings, equipment demonstration with Josh Berube.
So I gave Josh the night off. I told him I thought I could handle this one. So I did put a flyer in the drive for you so that you could see the components that Josh would be ordering to put together. And then he did head over to Chichester and do a short recording for you so that you could sort of see the camera quality and the audio quality. It's very clear. We're confident in this component. It's not a company and it's not one thing. It's the tech folks working together to purchase multiple things and put them all together into a pretty portable, high quality unit for a pretty low price compared to when we were trying to look for other folks to do this for us. So I think we have a really good solution, and I'm comfortable using the new round of grant funds to do this because we're putting this in place for remote purposes. So I believe that that's COVID related, and we're going to go ahead and order those components. And I am assuming that after you saw the clip, you saw that it was going to work quite well.
Yep, I dig it. Anybody else? Questions, comments, concerns? You don't need anything from us, right, Patty? Sorry, Amy.
I just wanted to say I'm excited about, this silver lining to the pandemic of having the ability to have remote participation in the board meetings into the future. So that's great.
I agree. On that note, before we go on to the next letter, again, I don't know if we want to make a decision on this since we're down a couple of people, but everybody at least start thinking about, because I'm thinking about moving our meetings to in person. From my point of view, and I honestly don't know how much control I have over meetings as the chair. But my thoughts, just so you guys know where I'm at, is anybody that attended in person, again, school grounds, would be masked. And if the capacity reached, an unreasonable level, then I would probably pivot back. But at this point, over the next couple of weeks, I think I'm at the point where I'm comfortable, probably once this system is in place, so that we can still have the live participation of the public. Having 100+ people every week is pretty cool. But once that system is in place and up and running and we can do it, I think I'm comfortable with getting back to face-to-face meetings if you guys are.
Yeah, I'm completely in favor of that. And if there's any delay as far as the audio visual device getting implemented, thought in my head is I think we as a board could possibly meet in person using our devices to live stream it over WebEx, possibly having administration in there also, whatever the case may be, and still being able to hear public comments from people who are not there.
Yes, and someone shared with me that Merrimack Valley was doing a hybrid meeting, so I actually gave Mark a call, the superintendent, and asked him about that. I wasn't sure how they were pulling it off, because if you have more than one device in the room, you get terrible feedback. So it sounds interesting. I didn't watch the meeting, but I guess the board members sit with their laptops and their whatever they're using, AirPods or whatever. Yeah, and they just sit around the table. So they're there in person, but they're actually having a virtual meeting. So I thought that was interesting. But that is an option if you wanted to try that.
Amy?
I would like to request that board members be allowed to attend remotely, even if the primary location of the board meeting is in person.
Yep, and I want to say there was a provision for that even beforehand. I think you had to have a quorum in person, but one or two could attend remotely already. So I think that would still be the case. And I mean, I would say from my point of view, if a majority of the board didn't want to be in person anyway, I certainly wouldn't push that. And you know, I'd like to hear what April and Ann have to say too. So not looking to do it for next meeting, but possibly the meeting after that if they're on board. So with that, we have one more 7D, and a quick update on current fiscal year.
So we continue to be in really good shape. Right now, we're sitting at $1 million, $365.75. That we're very happy to have been able to loosen up the budget, and that is taking into consideration buying our supplies for the rest of the year and those building level items. The majority of that surplus, I took a look, tried to identify some of the lines. I know Anne was interested in hearing about that. A lot of that was in health insurance. So for whatever reason, there were a lot of plan changes this year. And I think it was almost half of that. If I remember correctly, it was almost $500,000 just in plan changes. And then we did have some excess transportation. I'm not sure, you know, what that will shake out if we're all coming back. Obviously, we'll adjust that figure, but that was a pretty good chunk of it was transportation and health insurance and FICA and those fringe benefits.
Great. I'll editorialize again for a moment. Just, you know, conversations that come out of the municipal budget committee meetings, one of the recommendations was to look at ways to decrease this surplus. And on face value, I'm certainly on board with that. Having $1 million every year is not ideal. But I think this is a perfect example of why having $1 million is not a result of poor budgeting by any means. You know, Patty froze the budget in August before the school year even started. So that represents unforeseen changes in what we're going to spend. And then you've got $500,000 ish right now that just people changed their health insurance this year. These are not the kinds of things that anybody can predict a year ahead of time. So if we would have you know, shorted ourselves $500,000 in anticipation of people making plan changes, obviously that could have gone very poorly. So again, not saying there's not any room for improvement at all. There certainly is. But I just want to point out to those that are listening, this is the type of thing when we say there are unforeseen things that the school district has to budget some extra money for. These are the types of changes that we're talking about because it could have gone $500,000 in the other direction. So just throwing that out there.
And Andy, I would add too, I should have added not just plan changes, but we had a lot of staff leave and we did not fill positions. So we were down quite a few paras all year. So, you know, just one person, if they had a family plan, that's a pretty good chunk of money. So plan changes and then either positions that we never filled or people who left and we didn't rehire. So it was a combination.
Thanks. Jean, Amy, any questions on the surplus or current fiscal year? Oh, okay. I think that's it for number 7 then. I had on here that we were going to do 5. We've got one item for consent and we saw it in the drive, so we can take it up now or we can take it to non-public if you guys would prefer.
This is the leave request.
Yes.
I'll make a motion to approve the leave request.
I'll second that.
All right. Any conversation? Well, we can't do much conversation around that, but okay. Then on a roll call vote to accept the leave request as presented. Amy?
Yes.
Jean?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Thank you. So we will move to number 8, which is board reports. And I see Ryan's with us. How are you tonight?
I am doing well, thank you. So we have been approved for our outdoor version of Winter Carnival that will take place on May 20th and May 21st. So we're excited to plan the more intricate details that go alongside with that. And we're really just excited to have the opportunity to put together this beloved tradition. So I know I speak for the entirety of the Senate when I say I'm very thankful for the entire Pembroke administration, and especially Dr. Morris for working very closely with us to be able to accomplish our plans here. So on another front, as I'm sure you all understand very well, remote meetings are obviously less than ideal. And we're hoping in the next couple of weeks to start meeting in person as soon as possible as a Senate organization to continue to plan this Winter Carnival situation that will be happening in late May. So I don't really have many specifics for you, but hoping in the coming meetings to be able to provide you with that. But as always, I'm happy to take your questions.
Sounds good. Thank you. Any questions for Ryan tonight? Nope. All right. Thanks for hanging in there with us. We appreciate it. And good luck with planning. Not really a board thing, but if there's anything we can possibly do, let us know.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that.
So we haven't really appointed officers yet, and I'm pretty sure there's not a lot of movement on hardly any of the rest of these. I'm going through them quick. I don't think there was an SAU board meeting. I don't think there was an AREA meeting. Oh, there was an AREA meeting. Gene?
Yep, there was an AREA meeting. And basically, there was no action taken at this meeting. It was a presentation by Dean concerning amending the AREA agreement. And that's probably something that'll start moving forward in the future here. You know, it's end dates and commitments, all that good stuff. But there is some reading out there. There is, Dean is putting together the presentation that he gave to us at the meeting so everyone can see it and move forward from there.
Great, thanks. Just in case anybody's not aware, those meetings are also open to the public. I think they actually had their first member of the public possibly ever. No, that's not true. I know Ann used to go to some of them before she was on the board too. But if you're interested in the AREA stuff, it's not a super exciting conversation, but you are all welcome to attend. So let's see. Budget committee, nothing new on that. I don't think there's anything from PACE, right, Gene?
I have an update on PACE personnel.
Okay.
Jorge Santana was placed on administrative leave on February 26th. And Jennifer, I'm apologizing in advance. I'm going to try it. Cipolla, who was the curriculum and instruction director, has been named as interim executive director.
Thank you. Hill Renovation Committee, I spoke with Mr. Foss and he had some final edits to make, but the committee is done. They're going to convene one more time just to review his edits and make sure that they agree with them and kind of all sign off on the final report. But I would expect in the next 2 to 3 meetings to have Mr. Foss give us a presentation on those findings. And that brings us to our principals. So I will start with Ms. Gary, I suppose.
So we've been really embroiled in all of our planning for the last couple weeks. I'm not gonna lie, that's taken up a huge majority of our time. But we have been really working on bringing kiddos into the building, increasing. We have some kids that have started back in 4 days a week to kind of give them that additional dose. Miss Valina, I'm going to shout her out. She's on here. The kids did it's Kidderod, if I said it right. I'm sure that's a tradition that I got to witness this year. So that was a lot of fun that brought smiles to faces. But we are just going to head into the next couple weeks and go for this change. And I think I'll have more updates next time. But that's kind of what's going on with us.
Great. Any questions about Hill? Okay, we'll move up to TRS then.
Yeah, our annual February festival finished up. It was done in a completely different way. Not that you were in the building, but you could have seen kids actually playing miniature golf in our library, which is quite an experience to see. They did you know, they had a lot of fun. And I think kids, while it was different, it wasn't a gym full of kids. They were in each one of their unified arts doing something a little bit different. We had relay races in the gym, and some of you that may have seen Mr. Gridley's little videos telling all the score of what happened. So I do think kids had a sense of what it used to be, and hopefully it'll be the last time we have to do it like that. But there was certainly the old college try to get that done. We've had our second full remote Monday. Quite honest with you, it you know has not, it's gone well, but there's been bumps. I think it's been quite a you know a challenge for some kids to remember to get there on Mondays. So we finally finished that this week, the second one, and I do think it's good to at least see the kids in that fashion. I think I said last time, but we are getting our spring sports up and running. Baseball and softball tryouts, well, signups have started. That's like everything this year. It seems like it takes forever to move things, to get signups going, but we are slowly getting that done. And we are slowly bringing, I mentioned it earlier, we are slowly trying to get kids back into the building, you know, as the request happens. And we're trying everything we can to make kids comfortable as they come back. And other than that, we're just trying to, you know, the last couple of, not like what Wendy said, spending a lot of time on organization, trying to do the best full opening that we possibly can. It feels like we've had 5 or 6 first days of school this year, and that's stressful for a lot of people, including kids. So we're looking forward to moving forward and getting the kids back as soon as we can.
Thanks. Any questions for Mr. Marston? My kids were bummed about missing the February festival. I told them that they could have a competition of who could carry in the most firewood, but they didn't take me up on that. So I guess you're doing it better than I do. Dr. Morris.
Okay, so beginning today and concluding tomorrow, a spring tradition of having a senior class assembly to discuss our end of the year calendar. And we have a lot of important announcements on that. So I want to share a few of those with you. We obviously have AP testing and senior finals and whatnot, but the big ones, Ryan touched on one of them, Winter Carnival. I already mentioned that the junior class is planning a prom that would be open to juniors and seniors, and that is scheduled for Saturday, June 5th. And I can confirm that our graduation is scheduled at Fisher Cat Stadium on Tuesday, June 8th at 5:30 p.m. And then moving backwards from there, we would have convocation the day before, and that would be under that tent that I described earlier, and we would live stream that, and we would also have, you know, it's in our athletic field, so we could also accommodate families if they wanted to join in social distance with lawn chairs and that sort of a thing. Then the week earlier on the 4th, we would have our awards night, and that would look very similar to convocation. And our top 10 dinner and our spring concert is going to be on Wednesday, June 2nd. So that 10 is installed on, I believe, during the day on June 2nd, and it is used every single day for a week with the exception of Sunday. And Amy Parkinson's trying to figure out something we can do on Sunday to get our money's worth. Additionally, we just had a 8th grade information night last night that was facilitated with Mrs. Michaud and Amy Parkinson for our incoming freshmen. And we are going to begin our course registration process in earnest very quickly. So as much as, you know, things really are kind of in warp speed beginning in May to the end of the year in a traditional year, I think that will even be more so this year as we try to get, you know, like Winter Carnival and some other things in there and take advantage of the warmer weather.
Thank you. Any questions about PA? All right. Thank you to all the administrators. I'm sure these last few weeks haven't been any easier than the rest of this year. And I know everybody appreciates all the work to try to get people in the building. So thank you. I think that's it for number 8. I want to switch back up to number 3 quickly. If Jean and Amy are comfortable taking a look at minutes from the March 2 meeting.
I mean, I am comfortable, but I don't think it's urgent. You know, I don't think that April planned to be absent. She often has comments on the minutes. I think it would be nice if we could just hold off and approve them at the next meeting.
Works for me. So then we will jump down to policy. Same thing here. Do we feel like we want to wait for our board mates to look at these? Patty, is there anything that has to be attended to this evening?
Before I forget, we do have a gift and donation on number 6, if we can go.
My bad.
So for policies, I don't think there's anything necessarily urgent.
Okay. You guys okay with pushing those then? All right, then let's jump back up to number 6. I'm so used to skipping that one. There's a 1 there. I see it now.
I believe that is Dr. Morse.
Okay, we have an instrument that a parent would like to donate to us. It is a 4-octave concert marimba with a Voyager, which is, I believe, the kind of portable frame that it goes on, as well as some birch mallets. And this is actually a very costly instrument. The estimated price is just over $3,000 for that. And it is certainly something that Mr. Thibodeau is excited about, and we are grateful to this parent's generosity in donating this.
Awesome. Is there a motion to accept?
So moved.
So, yeah, I'll second that. I had to look up what a marimba was, but now I know, so we're good.
Thank you, donors.
It's not a snake. All right, on a roll call vote to accept the gift of the marimba and mallets and transportation Voyager. Amy?
Yes.
Jean?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. That's awesome.
If you don't mind, I have another one that came in today that I can talk to you about very briefly.
Sure.
Our football coach received a generous donation from the Joseph B. Riley Trust of $2,500. And he was asking for some support with uniforms, and this trust donated that money towards his program just today.
Awesome. So motion to accept.
Motion to accept.
Second.
Great. Any discussion? All right. I'm going to roll call vote to accept the gift of $2,500 to the football program. Jean?
Yes.
Amy?
Yes, with gratitude.
And I'm a yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. So I think, let's see, this is all out of order here. 3, 9, 6. I think that brings us to our second public comment section. So
Andy, I have an informational item, if that's okay.
Sure.
I just wanted to throw out there, I think I put it in the drive. Deerfield has a committee. Their contract with Concord is coming up, and have I updated you on that yet? I don't think I have. So they've sent a letter to some schools that are within a certain radius of different points in Deerfield, and they're going to begin negotiations with Concord, but they're also very interested in looking at other schools, maybe to get multiple agreements, or even open to the discussion about a new school of record. So they sent out their initial letter looking to see if people would be willing to have conversation, so that I did let them know that we do take some tuition students and that we would be open to conversation, very early stages, but it's definitely on the table, and we'll let you know as things progress. And if it gets to the point that board members actually want to sit down and talk to other board members, we'll set that up.
Sounds good. So now we'll move on to number 10. So second public comment section, again, we'll aim for 15 minutes. That puts us 8:36. If you've got comment to contribute, go ahead and use the raise hand button. If you're on your computer, if you're on your phone, hold tight till the end, and I will give instructions on how to unmute. All right, first I've got Melinda F. Melinda, it looks like you're unmuted, but I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to thank all of you for all of your hard work this year at the board and administrative level. I know that this year there's been lots of flack in the community about every decision that is made, and I think you've all dealt with it with grace, even in how you're dealing with tonight's meeting. So thank you.
Thank you. Next is Steve and Tammy Boucher, or unless that's Cove again.
Actually, this time it's Tammy. Let me begin by saying I'm floored that we're at March 16th and we're saying we can't get students back at Pembroke Academy until May 4th. We can get whole grades at the lower level back in a couple of weeks, but we can't get at least seniors back at Pembroke Academy for a month and a half. Let me be clear. I think all students should be back in school full time and should have been long before now, but especially seniors. This year, seniors have been impacted more than any other class. Last year's seniors went to school normally until March. This year's seniors missed all last spring and now given your vote essentially all this year. People treated last year's seniors as they should have, with signs honoring them and very special things done for them, including the waiving of cap and gown fees. This year's seniors have not been treated the same. And in fact, we're told just today that they'll be paying their cap and gown fees. Unacceptable, as is a May 4th return to school date. Get them back to school now. As someone who has had practically their entire family graduate from Pembroke Academy, my heart is broken.
Thanks, Tammy. I see one more hand. Ryan Sharilla, go ahead.
Yeah, hey everyone. Just a quick comment here. If you need any community volunteers to assemble all that furniture at the Hill School, I'd be happy to help and rally the troops in town. I'm sure lots of parents would be happy to chip in and help as well to make it a little lighter for Josh. Thank you.
Awesome, thanks for that. And we do have one more hand. Tim Girardi, go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. I just have to say that, you know, along the same lines where Tammy just mentioned and Cove earlier, I mean, we've got to figure this out. I mean, time is ticking, and we seem to be continually behind where other communities are. And I'm really disappointed that we can't seem to pull this all together. And I may have missed something, but I'm very much confused in terms of why we would need new furniture. Again, I could have missed something, but you know, I would have thought that we would have that and we could just go and put that in place from years past and have that be fine and not have a time constraint around that. Yeah, I'm really continually before every single meeting, I'm hopeful to hear more and more positive, proactive action, and it just seems like we're continually behind the eight ball. I'm not seeing really creative solutions. Hopefully it'll change, and hopefully this doesn't spill into next year as well. If it does, that would just be extraordinarily unacceptable. Hopefully we can, you know, parse together something of a, you know, school few months, I'll call it, as we head into the final stretch here. But you know, I'll just look forward to next meeting and hopefully more proactive updates from everyone.
Sorry, my button's going wacky. Thank you, Tim. We do have a couple more hands. Deanna is next.
Hi, it's Mark Dumont, Deanna's husband again. Donna Drive. Well, I want to take a different approach with you guys. I think it was Wendy Gary was saying you guys have been doing a lot of work over the last couple of weeks to get the schools open, and I want to thank everyone who's been doing that work, even if it is a day late or a dollar short. I want to encourage you guys to continue. We can open up and just keep doing that work and get us open as soon as possible. We should have been open up since September. It doesn't make sense that we're now opening it up after, it was way better in September. It's nothing you guys have done have made sense, but so it's kind of backhanded. I know to say that, but at the same time, I want to encourage you guys and thank you guys for the work that you guys are doing the last 2 weeks. Keep it up. Get these kids back in school. Get the seniors back in school too. This is their last year. It's a big deal for them. And we need to also start having the conversation about getting kids caught up. That's a big problem, especially single mothers out there where kids weren't able to do remote. They're overwhelmed. I mean, we're a two-parent household. We both work and we're overwhelmed. And it's like my mind goes right to the single mom. So you guys keep up that work. Keep moving forward, and think about those single moms. Think about those parents they're both working. Think about all those people, and let's get these kids back to school and obviously safe. But don't take it too much backhanded. But I want to encourage you guys also. So just keep working forward, especially the teachers and especially the SAU and everything else. I'm not gonna lie, I'm still pretty angry about the whole thing. But you know what? I'll give you guys this. The work that Wendy said that you guys have been doing the last couple of weeks, that's administration and the teachers and stuff. Keep it up. Let's get these kids back to school.
Thanks, Mark. And we have Sarah Peterson's, but judging by the camera, I think that's not Sarah.
It is not Sarah. It's Matt Peterson's 48 Bow Lane. I just wanted to sort of send my support for the decision that you all made today. I mean, certainly hearing from what Tammy brought up in terms of what the seniors have gone through this year, I am empathetic. And I really feel bad. It was really great town pride, school pride to see the signs out there last year for the graduating seniors in 2020. I'd love to see more of that, and if you need help with that, I'm happy to lend a hand wherever I can. I think in regards to the question about the desks, and certainly members of the school board, whenever you get a chance, can clear this up. I think the furniture was just a decision that was made prior to COVID in an effort to have more group learning and group conditions in the classroom where separate desks sort of separated students. So I totally get the position that you're all in. We have to wait for the stuff to be delivered the way that we can. And thanks for all your work this past year.
Thanks, Matt. I don't see any other hands, but there are still a handful of people on the phone. If you're called into the meeting, go ahead and hit *6 to unmute yourself if you would like to contribute to public comment. Just when you do so, please state your name. There's also somebody in the phone section that just says 513, like it doesn't have the rest of the phone number. I have no idea if you're able to communicate with us or not, but if you want to and you can't through here, shoot Sandy a quick email. Okay, not seeing anybody unmute, not seeing any other hands. We will move on. So I believe, if I'm following all of my crisscrossed arrows correctly here, we are on number 12, which is appointments, resignations, and retirements, and I don't think we have any. Okay, then I don't think we have any other business that we need to take care of tonight. Amy, Jean, that's your cue.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right, on a roll call vote to adjourn at 8:29. Amy?
Yes.
Jean?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Thank you all very much. Next scheduled meeting is April 6th at 6:30. Have a good week, everybody.
Good night.